Good evening, my name is Shannon and I am the mother of Anthony Duran. Let me start by saying this is my first public speaking engagement and it's an honor to speak to the students of Valencia High School. Anthony would have started his freshman year of high school this coming September at Valencia. He was looking forward to playing football and being on Coach David's team. Anthony was a very charming, sweet, energetic, and loving son who adored his little brother and family. I would say he was a mama's boy. He would protect me, help me, and never want to see me sad. He was never afraid to tell me he loved me. He always hugged me and kissed me no matter who was around. He had a very distinct laugh. Green eyes, long eyelashes, soft brown hair, and a smile that you couldn't say no to. He always made sure he looked good when he dressed, had to coordinate everything he wore, even changed several times in the morning. He'd always appear quiet and shy, but once you got to know him, he would talk, laugh, tell jokes, and even tease you. His friends have told me on several occasions, he always knew how to make me laugh and make any issue I was having go away, especially with the girls. He was a ladies' man. Anthony's biggest dream was to play in the NFL. In fact, he loved football so much that when his friends and him didn't have a football, they would toss around a shoe. Anthony had a very distinct walk, and when he was playing football, you could tell who he was on the field by the way he was walking. And getting hurt wasn't something that even fazed Anthony. If he was injured while playing, he would just shake it off and go back to playing the game. My son's dreams, future, laugh, smile, hug, touch, and voice were taken from him on January 11, 2013 by a drunk driver. I will never see my son grow up and graduate high school, go to college or the NFL, see his dreams come true, start a family, or watch him grow into the gorgeous young man he was becoming. Friday, January 11th at 8:30 in the morning would be the last time I would see my son alive. And I can't tell you how many times I think of those last moments in words, in which I am about to share with you. I dropped him off at school and told him, "Be good, Bubba, I love you." His response, "I've been good all week, Mom. Love you too," with his cute smirk. He would always text me when he got out of school, when he was home, and let me know what he was doing. He always told me, "Mom, you're the only mom who asks so many questions. Remember, your parents ask you questions because they love you." My son was spending the night at his friend's house around the corner from our house. They decided to go grab some Carl's Jr. One of Anthony's favorite foods was a spicy chicken sandwich, but he never made it. Anthony fell off his skateboard, which went into the street. Anthony went into the street to retrieve his skateboard. As he was returning to the sidewalk, he was struck by a truck going 51 miles per hour. Anthony was thrown 81 feet from where he was hit. One gentleman had stopped and started performing CPR on my son, who was unresponsive and didn't have a pulse. Through everything, my son's friend had contacted the police and his mom. At 8:49, I received the worst phone call a mother could ever receive. On the other end of the phone, I heard the other mom screaming, "Anthony has been hit by a car. Anthony has been hit by a car." My heart dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't want to believe what I was hearing. She told me where they were, and I rushed over. When I arrived, the police wouldn't even let me on the ambulance with my son because they knew it wasn't good. My husband and I followed behind the ambulance as well as the police car to the hospital. When I arrived, I jumped out of the car and ran to the paramedics, where I could see Anthony laying, not moving, with a tube down his throat. My son had been intubated because he could not breathe on his own. I later learned that his pulse did not come back until he was on the ambulance. Anthony was rushed into emergency surgery, where his internal bleeding was so bad, they were unable to stop it. He had lost 40 pints of blood during surgery. His neck was broken in 2 places, and his spine was shattered. My son was without oxygen for so long, he no longer had brain activity. I was told that if he did have brain activity, my son would have been paralyzed from the neck down. Throughout the night, we remained by Anthony's side, holding his hand, praying for a miracle. I sang to him, "You are my sunshine," the same song I sang to him when he was a baby. At 9:40 a.m. on January 12th, my son's life came to an end. 2 prior DUIs, a suspended driver's license, and was on probation for his DUIs. He should have never been behind the wheel. He blew a 0.75 and 2 minutes later a 0.76. The legal limit is 0.8. We have been advised he had also marijuana and a muscle relaxer in his system. Throughout the police report, the driver stated several times, "He came out of nowhere. I didn't even see him." He states he wasn't going fast, yet my son was flown 81 feet. He even had a passenger in the car with him. If he hadn't been drinking, wasn't high, or on a muscle relaxer, would my son still be alive? Would he have seen my son in the street? Would the passenger who had a few glasses of wine seen my son in the street? He could have swerved out of the way, but due to his intoxication, his delayed reaction killed my son. In the police report, they stated several times he showed no remorse or care for my son. He never once asked how the pedestrian was. All he would say was, "He came out of nowhere," or "Why was he in the street?" The passenger made a comment in the police report as to my son's friend, who, quote, was having a cow, as he watched Anthony, his best friend, lay in the street. Anyone who drives on the street where Anthony's life was taken from him knows the street is not small. He had plenty of room to swerve into the other lane. At the time, he was the only car in the street. The driver lied about where he was at, stating he was at an AA meeting. Come to find out, he was at a restaurant drinking. In a statement to the police, they asked him if a judge ever told him what would happen if he gets behind the wheel under the influence again and strikes a pedestrian. He can and will be charged with murder. His response, "Yeah, I remember. I will never see my son again due to the carelessness of the driver. He made the decision to drink, to get into a car and drive knowing he was under the influence, on probation with a suspended license. I now have to wait for the court to determine what his sentence will be, what charges will be filed against him, while I have to spend the rest of my life without my son. I will never hear him, see him, smell him, or watch him play football again because of a drunk driver." Just like the driver, you know the consequences of getting behind the wheel while intoxicated. Now, I strongly believe you are all smart enough to make the right decision by finding another driver. Ways to avoid injuring or killing yourself or others: get a designated driver. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a designated driver, a friend, a family member, anyone who has not had a drink. If you're by yourself, then don't drink. It's not worth the consequences. Drink responsibly and do not drive, not even after one drink. Your vision and your perception is off, even after just one drink. Don't ever think this won't happen to you, because it can. Get a taxi, get a hotel room, sleep in your car. Make the commitment to yourself not to drink and drive. It can save your life and others. Thank you.